All right, so here's how I think we need to start the podcast from now on. I think we need...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your co-host, Jake. And today we'll be pitching TV show pilots, as we always do. But this time, it's Charles's turn.
It is my
Charles,
turn.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. I was going to say we should start by stoking some beef with other much more popular creators, but we're just getting right into it, and that's fine. That's cool with me. I have a show. It's a future show, a show set in the future that will also hopefully be made in the future. That could be fun.
I kind of wish it'd be made in the past, to be honest. That'd be more interesting.
Listen, if they found a way to make this if we found a way to go back in time and replace Doctor Who with this show, like in the 50s, BBC, shoestring budget, making this weird sci-fi space drama show, I would be very impressed with us. And I have a preliminary title, but I'm not very happy with it. So I want your opinion.
No.
It's just called Endless War. That's really my thing. That's the title idea I have right now. But I want you to think about that and then come up with a much better title. But it is a future war. It's about a future war. That's what
you call it, future war.
Future
Pretty
war.
Sure that's what you call that.
I'm almost positive. Or there's a bit of a Terminator movie called that. Future war. John Connor's here. He's being a real prick. Look at me. It's me. I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm also a real prick. And this is a show about it's this war that's been going on for decades, maybe centuries. We don't know yet. Between the Human Alliance and this mysterious force.
May I interrupt shortly?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want to hear the plot of Future War, 1997 rated R sci-fi indie film with a 1.6 out of 10 on IMDb?
I would love to hear the plot of Future War.
So the quick summary provided by the internet is a novice nun and her friends attempt to shelter a runaway slave from his cyborg masters and their dinosaur trackers.
Okay,
what the hell is this movie?
I have to say that sounds like the greatest film ever made, and it's a tragedy that it wasn't in our film class that we took together at MIT.
Yeah.
So
did we mention that we both went to film school at MIT?
Yeah, exactly. Because MIT has a film program. I'm pretty sure, probably.
Maybe.
Nerds need to watch films too, and we were the coolest guys at MIT. We got all the hot babes, all the hot science babes. All
right, let's move on before Charlie speaks more about it.
We start getting attacked by MIT graduates. It's about a future war that's happening between the Human Alliance and this weird robotic army that seemingly has no end. It is this army that will continue to fight until the end of time and will not ever stop. And they don't know why. No one knows why they fight. No one knows what they're fighting for, but they're like, we need to fight. And so our story, our show, follows Platoon 289242 on Assault Ship 493. We're just going to call him 28. Platoon 28. That's our crew of Platoon 28, and they are a small band of highly trained individuals who use their multitude different kinds of skills to do jobs and complete missions that are a bit more on the risque side. They're highly trained soldiers and fighters and pilots, right? So I'm going to run down our characters first. So we've got Witch Doctor. He's the medic, he's wise and old, and he's willing to do anything for his patients. He's kind of the conscience of the group. But he's also the guy who's got the most connections. He knows people all over the galaxy. He's, this cool dude, and he's a bit older than everyone else, but he's also a bit wiser, and he's got some tricks up his sleeves. And his code name is Witch Doctor. We never find out their real names because that's lame. Real names are for nerds. Code names are the best.
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, Jake Gloth. Our second character is Sinner, and he's the pilot of the crew. He's not the captain, but he pilots the crew and he's the navigator. And he is a drunken, gambling asshole who's constantly getting in and out of trouble and has basically been signed up to fight because it was the only way to clear away his debts. He was like, well, if I get this signing on bonus, and then that signing on bonus goes to pay off my debts, and then I'm fine. And so he is, for all of his faults, very loyal to the Human Alliance. He believes in what they're doing, and he believes that the Human Alliance is kind of the moral right all of the time. He doesn't really see a gray area, right? Our third character is Sundance, and he's a gunner. He's quiet.
I love that name.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's a great shot, and he loves 19th century movies. Everybody gets to pick their own code name. He's a real big weeb for.
So he's the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, he's a big old weeb for 20th century Earth culture. He's not.
Damn! Imagine not picking Butch Cassidy as your name.
Yeah.
The Sundance Kid.
Our next character is Dr. Gonzo, and he's an engineer, a genius chemist, but he's incredibly lazy and easily swayed by cash or any other, monetary or otherwise, valuable assets. He, if you're like. If you do this job, you get a new ship, or you get, new shoes, or whatever. He's very easily swayed. He doesn't really have a moral compass that he follows.
It's a 2-for-1 deal, new ship and shoes.
Yeah, new ship and shoes. That's the sign-on bonus. You get a new ship and shoes. They're like limited edition Nikes. They're not limited. They're the Freddy Krueger Nikes that they made like 8 pairs of, and now they cost like $1 million or whatever. You know about those?
Nope.
Back in the 90s, they made these like limited edition Freddy Krueger Nikes, and they like made so few pairs of them that like any real sneakerheads that have them are like, oh my god, they're the top tier collectors. They're like the shiny Charizards of the shoe. Is a shiny Charizard good? Probably. It's probably good at the shoe world.
All right, I'll believe you.
I mean, I imagine. And our last character, he's the leader of the crew. He's the secondary gunner. He's the pilot, and he's a ruthless son of a bitch. His name is the Eggman. He loves the Beatles.
Is he a big Sonic guy?
He loves the Beatles, and he hates Sonic the Hedgehog. And he tries for his men. He often tries to do what's best for his men, but he often fails as well, because he's just kind of the universe's punching bag, this guy, Mr. Eggman. And these 5 men make up this crew. And maybe, they don't have to be men. Some can be women, some can be non-binary, it's whatever. These 5 people make up the crew. And most of the show is just them traveling around the galaxy, receiving, jobs from their superior officers, being sent on missions. Maybe they'll, stop by a planet and they'll uncover some unjust, thing that requires their intervention, or a friend asks for help, because they have a bit more freedom than the standard grunt ships. They have, the ability to go where they think they need to go. And they still have to listen to the superior officers when they're called in to do a mission, but they also have the freedom to do other things for people that they think need their help. And so most of the show will just be them traveling a boot. And then there is a...
I'm sorry, what?
Traveling a boot.
About?
No, a boot.
There we go.
They're traveling a boot.
Yeah. Charles sometimes forgets his roots.
Charles sometimes forgets the basics of the English language. But that's okay, because Charles is also the best-looking member of the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. Right now, I just want to talk to you about the main story and the subplots, right? Because the subplot that is kind of being told in the background of the main story is about the history and the reasons behind this seemingly endless war. You know, why do we keep fighting? Who are the things that we're fighting? And each episode will reveal a little bit about that mystery, but will also be about, you know, a fun space adventure where they have to fight a giant whale or something, or save like a small town from bandits or whatever, you know? So I have a few episode ideas written down here, and then I'm gonna after I finish going through these, we're gonna talk about the main plot, the story, the mystery, and the reveal at the end of season 1.
Oh
yeah.
Boy.
So, the first episode, the pilot, if you will follow our crew. They're sitting at a bar in space. They're all just enjoying a drink, you know. Sitting there, they're trading war stories, and that's how we get introduced to these characters. Through their, you know, interactions, you'll see Sinner is like outside in the or behind the bar, and he's playing craps, and he like gets into a fist fight. Dr. Gonzo and Sundance are sitting there, you know, just like playing cards silently together, as, you know, as Witch Doctor is like talking up some of the ladies, telling some war stories, and Eggman is plotting their next course. He's very committed to making sure that they do what they need to do. While everyone else is relaxing, he's getting ready for the next assignment. And they receive their next assignment, in which a platoon of Charlies, that's what they're going to call the robots, just because I couldn't think of a better name.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, Charlies, because that's what they called them in Vietnam. Decimate.
Sure, that's what you picked.
Decimate this remote village that's just on this like tiny world that has barely been terraformed so far. And it's just basically this medieval level technology. And for whatever reason, the robots have completely destroyed this village. And the upper brass, they want to know why. Like, go there, eliminate any Charlies that you find, and figure out what the hell was there for that. Like, what were they looking for on this planet? Right? So they go there. There's a bit of, you know, there's a bit of well-written dialogue. I'll leave that to you. There's a bit of well-written dialogue, some.
Am I the one that writes good dialogue?
I mean,
I don't think so.
You're the one with the cojones. I'm the big picture kind of guy.
Okay.
I'm the George Lucas of this situation, and you're the Dave Filoni. How's that? Is that good? Is that a?
Are you gonna pitch a Star Wars sequel trilogy that revolves around the Force being microorganisms? Because that's what George Lucas did.
Yeah, I am. Well, I went back to this show because I just finished watching the first season of The Bad Batch, which is a really good Star Wars show, and I think that this show has a little bit of that same DNA, but there's no little annoying kid running around being a jackass. So they do some well-written dialogue. They get on the ship. They're flying. Maybe they run into some sort of pirate, or they see something. You know, we give the audience a little bit of flavor about the universe. Maybe they have to fly through a submarine blockade, and they have to like dodge and weave in between these torpedoes that are being fired at them. They're like, oh man, that was close. I wonder why they're protecting this planet so much. And so they eventually get down to the planet, and it's exactly what they expected it to be. It's this absolute, medieval level technology kind of place with just forests and weird alien animals and all this other stuff. And they're just trudging through the mud, and there's mosquitoes, and they're fucking miserable. And like Sinner and Dr. Gonzo are complaining the entire time because they're both lazy, and Sinner's, not really happy because he's hungover and all this stuff. And they eventually get to the village that was wiped off the map. And they discover that underneath of this village, there's a secret military compound. Whoa. And it's like, whoa. Well, like, why is this here? who put this here, because this isn't Human Alliance technology. At least this isn't current Human Alliance technology. So what's the dealio? And so they, descend into this. They help out some of the survivors of this village, and they get some of the information, and Witch Doctor stays back to help, sew up the natives and, help the people. And Sundance and Eggman and Sinner descend into the military compound below, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Why is this here, and why do the bots know about it but we don't? So they're going around. There's maybe a firefight with some lasers and some grappling hooks and some guns, and they're fighting some robots and blowing them up. And I should mention that these robots are like 80% robotic and 20% organic. Like, there is an organic element to them, but they are definitely not human. They're definitely not people. They're mechanical, but they have maybe they have organic eyes or something, and I don't know, fingers or something. We do something weird. They just don't have organic brains. And they figure out that this military compound is where hyperlight travel is being developed. And they know, Eggman knows, that hyperlight travel is kind of the last great barrier in between the Human Alliance and time travel. He knows that in order for time travel to happen, hyperlight barrier has to be broken. And so he's like, what the heck? How is... And so he they take the notes, they take everything, and they leave the place to blow. They set up explosives. Sinner's all happy because guess what? He gets to blow something up, and he wasn't expecting to do that today. He was expecting to just maybe help some people. And he was like, that's fucking lame. Boo. I want to blow something up for the good of the Alliance. And so they blow it up, and the episode ends with everybody getting back on their ship. They're all healthy and they're happy, and maybe, Dr. Gonzo is like, all right, we did a good job. Now it's time for mimosas. And, everybody's making mimosas and they're having a good time. And Eggman transfers.
Okay.
What? You got a problem with mimosas?
No, that's
Dr. Eggman, or just Eggman. His name's not Dr. Eggman, it's just regular Eggman. Transfers all of the documents that he received from to the upper brass, but he starts asking questions, and he gets told by the higher ranking people, don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. You're a soldier, we tell you where to go, what to do, and you do it. You don't ask questions. And so he's a little taken off by this. He's like, what? Okay. And so that's how the first episode ends, with everybody except Eggman having a party, being happy, doing some well-written dialogue, maybe. You know what? Actually, not well-written dialogue. Poorly written dialogue. And Eggman's just a little bit put off by that, and he's like, he's beginning to question what's going on. And then he goes down and he joins the men and drinks mimosas with them, and it's fun. And that's how the first episode ends. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Second episode starts in medias res. They're being attacked by a gigantic space squid that has nearly swallowed their entire ship. Sundance and Eggman are manning the guns, and they're trying to kill this squid, but they just can't. They seemingly just can't kill the squid. And eventually their ship gets swallowed. And this is kind of a, Pinocchio style situation where they're stuck inside of the squid and they have to figure out a way out. And so they're, going around the squid. Witch Doctor and Dr. Gonzo are collecting samples of the inside of the squid to try and develop some sort of chemical agent in order to get it to release them. And they're just investigating, and they find these hundreds of ships inside of this squid. This squid has been gorging itself on both Human Alliance and bot ships. on Charlie's ships or whatever. So it's like, this isn't a weapon made by either side to attack the other. This is just something that exists in space. And they're like, okay, fine. And so in the shit, they're, doing stuff. Maybe there's some sort of cool, like, space, like, mites, because they always have, like, those big mites that attack, and they're the parasites that live inside of the squid, and it's like they have to fight them off, and eventually Dr. Gonzo flips up his, like, robot arm and, like, blasts it with a flamethrower or something cool. And it's like a survival story. This episode is about them surviving, so they have to, like, ration their food. Eventually tensions get high because everyone's bored, everyone's hungry and scared, and so things escalate. People get into fist fights. They have to be sedated or separated from one another. And Eggman and Witch Doctor are basically the two only people who are really, like, sane. Not sane, but, like, the only people who are keeping their heads, like, keeping a level head about everything. And while they're walking around inside of the squid, they find a few things. They find a little panel, like just one piece of metal, that says Assault Ship 493. That's it. And if you remember properly, that's the assault ship number for their ship. And so Eggman finds it, and he's like, what the hell? And he, like, tucks it away. He doesn't tell the crew about it because he doesn't want to freak them out. And so he keeps that in mind. And then they're also traveling around, and they find a ship like a spaceship that looks like it was built decades ago, maybe hundreds of years ago. And it's like, this is technology that is very dated. It's weird. It's, and they find a swastika on the side of the ship. Turns out
it's gonna make them
Nazis.
Oh my God.
No, it turns out a bunch of the Nazis at the end of the war used the last of their technology and resources in order to build themselves a spaceship. And so the Nazi ship was flying through space, and they're like, we'll, find a new homeworld and all this stuff. And then they got eaten by the big squid. And so I just, because, it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun little adventure show. And they find a whole bunch of Nazi gold. That's all. I want them to find this Nazi gold inside of the ship. They're like, woo, we're rich. Sinner's, like, super pumped about it. And then Witch Doctor realizes that, one of the chemicals, or, like, in order to create the chemical required for the ship to, like, be spit out by the squid, basically, they have to, like, melt all the gold down and, like, destroy it, basically. Mm-hmm. And then Sinner's, like, very sad because he just found a shit ton of money that he can use to, like, pay off all his debts and feed his gambling addiction. And he has to be convinced that being alive is better than having money. But he still manages to squirrel away a few bars of Nazi gold. Or maybe Eggman does that for him, because Eggman cares about his men. And they eventually use the Nazi gold, and they use it to escape. And they get out of the squid, and it's like a big triumphant moment with lots of swelling orchestral music. And then they pull up to basically a auto shop in space, and they get their ship repaired. And the guy is like, what happened to you guys? And they're like, you wouldn't fucking believe us if we told you, man. And they all just go for a drink. And they're like, yeah. That's the end of that episode. Now, the next two episodes are a two-parter, right? It is, they're ordered to find and destroy a secret bot base that is within this asteroid field by Brass, like higher Brass. And they're, given coordinates. They're told what's being there and why they have to destroy it. And it's, it's super important that this whole place is exploderated. We don't want any survivors. And the guys are like, all right, cool. That's fine. That's cool. And they get there, and they do some reconnaissance, and they find the secret base. But they also find that there are POWs being held at this base, and they didn't know that the bots took POWs, so they're like, what? This is very odd. But they realize that everyone except for Sinner, who is a Human Alliance weeaboo, is like, we can't just kill these men. They're, fellow soldiers like ourselves. They're our brothers in arms. We can't just we can't just blow them up. And so that's how the first of these two-parter ends, with them, deciding that they can't just blow up the base. They have to save the men. And so the second episode is them, whatchamacallits? What am I saying? Them infiltrating the base. Maybe they put on a fun little disguise or something, or they hide inside of a truck that's going in, and they have to infiltrate the base, find the men, escape. There's some explosions happening while they're doing it. And once they've gotten out, they drop the bomb that was given to them by Brass and blow the entire ship up. Or blow the entire base up. And the POWs are like, oh my god, thank you, we thought we were dead men. And they get them back to a Federation, a Human Alliance controlled planet. And Top Brass says, thank you, we definitely didn't know that these men were captured. Like, that was a surprise. Wow, they were captured. But Eggman has his doubts. He thinks that they knew that those men were there, and they just either wanted those men dead or didn't care. And he's not sure which is worse. And the only person he can really talk to about that, about his, waning allegiance to the Human Alliance, is Witch Doctor, because Witch Doctor is kind of the team conscience, because he's older and he's wiser. And he doesn't really trust any of the other men enough to, tell them about his doubts. And so that's how it ends, is with just him and Witch Doctor having a conversation. Then Witch Doctor patting him on the back and saying, come on, quit taking yourself so seriously.
It's right there.
And then they go out and drink, and it's fun. They party, right? And the last episode idea I have written down is an old friend of Witch Doctor's calls him up and asks him to meet on one of the free planets. That's what they call them, but they're basically just pirate planets. They're planets where all these different kinds of outlaws of the Human Alliance live, away from the laws established by the Alliance, but also away from the protection of the Alliance. So they are also fighting off the bots whenever they get a chance. They're on this pirate planet. Sinner's not happy about it. He is like, this is not okay. We can't, these are all traitors to the Human Alliance, and you're, what we're doing is treason. I can't believe I let you talk me into this, blah, 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 blah. And they eventually find Witch Doctor's friend, and he's like this old, grizzled cyborg pirate guy. And he's like, Witch Doctor, you're a fucking sight for sore eyes. I knew having a friend in the Alliance would help me out one day. And Witch Doctor's very happy to see him, but also wary, because he knows that this guy he's bad news. He knows that this guy's going to ask them to do something, but this guy saved his life before the show started, just years prior, so he needs to repay him. And so this guy is asking them to smuggle this package through an electrode storm, which is basically just a storm in space a never-ending storm in space that shuts off all technology, right? It won't affect the engines because they've got special protections, but their scanners are going to be off. They're not going to have any way of communicating. And he's like, you need to smuggle this girl through that storm. There is a planet in the middle of the storm that has remained completely hidden from Alliance scans. You need to deliver her there. Or deliver this package there. And Witch Doctor says, fine. But after that, we're done. I'm like, I don't owe you anything. And he pulls basically all of the goodwill he has with the rest of the crew in order to get them to agree to this. And that's how the first episode 5, that's how it ends, is with them agreeing to it and them loading the package up onto the ship. And then they're, going through, they're flying, maybe they're avoiding a pirate ship at the very beginning of the next episode. They're breaking through a pirate blockade or getting into a fight or a firefight with some pirates. And then they eventually burst into the electrode storm, and they're like, whoa, this is, we're flying blind out here. And they have to keep Sinner is the pilot, and he has to remain completely aware at all times. And Dr. Gonzo is also up there, because he's got the most cybernetic augmentations. Maybe his eyes are extra good and they can see stuff, so he's helping Sinner navigate. But it's very dangerous because they just don't know what's 5 feet ahead of them. 5 feet in space terms, so more than 5 feet. But space travel's different than real travel, I think. I don't know, I've never space traveled, but I have real traveled. It's pretty good. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. But while they're going through the electrode storm,
travel's fun. Traveling on a boat,
that is fun. Traveling on a boat is fun. There's lots of waves and sails.
Mm-hmm. Especially if
maybe
it's a big
even
boat
a fish.
And you got things to do.
If you're lucky, there's a fish. But they're traveling through the electrode storm, and because of maybe it can be just because of the effects of the electrode storm on technology, or maybe it can be because they are struck by a bit of lightning. We'll come up with a more sci-fi word for it, but lightning. Their ship's struck by lightning, and so all the technology on the ship turns on for a brief second and then all turns off. Including the engine. And so while Dr. Gonzo and Witch Doctor are down there fixing the engine, the package that they've been hired to deliver opens up. And they're like, what? And out steps a girl, a woman, who had been cryogenically frozen inside of this package. And she's like, where am I? Who are you? She pulls a knife on them, that sort of thing. She, attacks one of them. Maybe she slices a Sinner on the cheek. And he's he's real pissed off about it. And Witch Doctor has to sedate her. And they strap her down to a chair. And she wakes up and they explain what's going on. And she explains that she is the daughter of the rebel leader. I haven't given him a name. Yeah, well, let's think of a name for him right now. Saw Gerrera. That's a good rebel name.
Yeah, no one's ever done that before.
How about rebel leader
just call him
is
Saul.
Darth Vader?
Saul.
No. Let's think of a
James Cameron.
Yeah.
James Cameron. It's James Cameron. The rebel leader is James Cameron.
You know what? Let's call him Maims Cameron, because he's a fierce warrior and he maims everybody. He's Maims Cameron, and this is his daughter, Cameron Maims.
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz, his daughter, and she's like, last thing I remember, my dad was tucking me into bed. He said he was going to go away for a while, and then I just woke up here. And Witch Doctor is able to deduce, along with Eggman, that she has been an incredibly important political pawn in the war, because she's the only person that the rebel leader Maims Cameron cares about. And so he has been hired. The Witch Doctor's friend has been hired to have her transported to the rebel home base that's within the electrode storm. And the Witch Doctor's friend had no one who could do that except for this squad. You know, these guys are not legendary, but they're known for getting the job done. So he's like, if anyone can do it, they can do it. And if they don't manage it, well, she's dead, they're dead, life goes on. You know, that's I miss out on a payday. That's annoying, but whatever. And so this episode, these two episodes are about a lot about, I would say, Sinner and Eggman coming to a head, because Sinner is like, we need to turn her into the Alliance. This is ridiculous what you're having us do. Where, you know, this is treason. You're making me implicated in all this stuff, and I won't do it anymore. And so they come to blows, Eggman and Sinner, and Eggman puts him down. He just knocks him right out, and has Witch Doctor and Dr. Gonzo sedate him and put him in the ship, and Eggman pilots. And he's not as good of a pilot as Sinner, but he's still a pretty good pilot. And so they eventually manage to get through the Electrode Storm. Maybe there's some more shenanigans. There can be something, and the girl can help out. Cameron Diaz can help out. But they manage to get in, and they deliver her to a rebel ship that is waiting for them at the center of the storm. And they're like, what? We were expecting a rebel planet, a rebel base, you know? And the rebels are like, did you really think that we were so stupid that we would let a Alliance ship know where our base is? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, your contact may trust you, but we don't. So they, you know, do the handoff, and it's maybe a bit of an emotional goodbye because, you know, she's gotten attached to them or something. You know, we could do that, or we could be like, yeah, good fucking riddance, that sort of thing. And then they go back to fighting in their forever war, their endless war. So those are the episodes I have so far. We can do a few more, like, battles. I think that might be interesting if they're doing a space battle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely cool. You can have them, like, board ships and stuff. Maybe they can have being, like, a gigantic, you know, human versus robot
war
clash
situation. Yeah.
Like, you know, like a big battle with, you know, lots of ships, and they have to get to the head robot ship and destroy the central computer so that all the robots will shut off. That's a big suspense.
Yeah, or they need to, like, upload a virus, and they're the only ones who have it, so they need to, like, get in and that sort of thing. Yeah, we have big robot battles because this is it's a fun sci-fi war show, so I want there to be fun sci-fi battles and stuff, but also creatures.
So you call the robots Charlies. Is there a reason for that?
Just because those are, I was thinking, like, what do we call enemy combatants, you know?
Well, we called the Viet Cong Charlie because the C in
yeah,
Kong.
I know, and I was like, it's just fun. I think it's just fun to call them Charlies.
Oh, but, like, is there, like, you know, you could make it a joke and be like, oh no, they're actually called Charlies.
Yeah.
Or you could be serious and you can be like, well, we call them Charlies because they're actually called, you know, corroborators or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, actually, I think it would be good if it was like, yeah, we start dismantling one of them, and we found out in their DNA, in their fucking programming, they are all referred to as Charlie. We don't know why yet, but this is general.
Yeah, it could start off as a joke, and then you could reveal it later on is that they're all part of, like, a collective consciousness. It's actually a person named Charlie.
Well, I mean,
who was, like, at the center, and maybe he, like,
close.
was trying to save his son.
Well, actually,
wait, there's a guy named Dr. Burt, and he's trying to save his son, and his son's name was Charlie, and that's his collective consciousness.
Yeah.
But it's evil.
Well, actually, the big reveal of this series is that this endless war, this forever war, I think forever war is a better title than endless war, is self-perpetuating. That's basically the big reveal, is that all of the high brass people know why we're fighting. They know who we're fighting. They know that, like, the origin of these robots, and it's actually the robots are the army from the future. Does that make sense? The army
invading the past.
The human alliance of the future is invading the past in order to perpetuate this forever war, because it's very good for maintaining allegiances, right? If they have an enemy to combat, the human alliance government will never be...
so like 1984.
Yeah, it'll never be questioned because they have an enemy. And so, in order to... That base where they found the hyperlight drives, or the schematics for the hyperlight drives, is basically a sort of temporal lockbox that was... The future humans went way far back in time and placed that there and then left. And now they're invading in order to give the current humans a way to invent time travel so that they can become the future humans. So it's a snake eating its own tail situation. So it's a lot of like very complicated time travel. And the final reveal, the whole crew will find out about it, and everyone will be like completely disgusted and like feel horrible and want to join the rebels. But Sinner is he's like, we have a job to do and I don't care, if it's good for the Alliance, then I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to die in this endless war if it means that the Alliance continues on into the end, continues on
into the endless roll credits.
Yeah,
Boom.
That sort of thing. And so there's like this big, confrontation on the ship, and Sinner has like, maybe he's reprogrammed a lot of the bots, like a lot of the, robots. Maybe they recovered some robots and he's reprogrammed them to fight on his side. And so it's Eggman, Dr. Gonzo, Witch Doctor, and Sundance fighting Sinner and like a squad of highly trained, or not even highly trained, of well-programmed robot, warriors. And they, of course they win, because that's how TV shows are structured. And then they launch Sinner out into space. They're like, you know what? You're done here, buddy. And he gets sucked out into space.
He's dead, or like in a drop pod?
It appears to them that he's dead. They think that they've killed him, right? And that's how it is. That's how the season ends, with him being shot out into space and them going back to the pirate planet to try and establish contact with the rebel leader in order to help join their cause, because they now know the truth, that this war is... They've been sent to die by their own government in order to maintain the status quo, basically. But in the post-credits scene, because it's 2022, you need to have a post-credits scene, we see that Sinner has managed to, before he died in space, he managed to cobble together this sort of oxygen tank situation to keep himself alive while he was floating. And he has been severely frostbitten, and most of his body is gone. But he survived, and he's recovered by the Human Alliance and rebuilt into maybe one of the first proto bots. Does that make sense? He is becoming the blueprint that the Charlies are going to be built off of. And maybe we can reveal that his name is Charles or something, or Charlie, his actual name. And then, that's the end of season 1. We'll see if we get a season 2.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, they should make that would be a great reveal, because that would be everything's comes full circle right at the end. They're doing the tests on him. They're he'll be the first bot, blah 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 blah, and they're putting in the first pieces in him, the first robotic software and hardware, and they're like, all right, what they're like, we have to find his actual medical data, and it's like, his name's Charles Borat.
Yeah, Charles Borat.
What is some last name? But that would be a great reveal, because you'd be like, oh crap, it's the robot. That's why
that's where they get
Charlie's.
The name from. Oh my god. And then that's the end of the first season, and I haven't really thought of a second season. Probably be more war, probably be more fighting, because also the series can end.
Second season's got to be all about like Charlie trying to get them, like he wants to get revenge, and they have to, you either have to do a redemption arc or like destroy him.
I don't think you can do a redemption arc. I think he has to get like launched into like a hyperdrive, a hyperlight drive.
You can do like a redemption arc where he's like on their side again, or you can do like a Darth Vader redemption arc where at the last second he makes the correct choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, destroys the time travel so that there's no more endless war.
Yeah, that would be nice. That could be fun. We don't know. Redemption arcs are for nerds. Make everyone. No one ever has a character arc. That's how you make good television.
That's what would happen if you were in charge.
Characters never change or
everyone's
develop.
The same.
But yeah, that's my show.
They all are terrible people, and they all stay that way.
That's my show, The Forever War, and yeah.
Yep, Future War. Daniel Bernhardt.
Yeah, well.
That's. I remember in the beginning of this where we talked about that movie.
Yes.
Future War.
I do remember.
You remember that?
Yeah. Maybe we can end it with.
I know you've been waiting for the full plot, so here we go.
Okay. Good.
A spaceship is undergoing revolt. A man enters and activates an escape pod which travels to Earth and crashes into the Pacific Ocean. The pod contains the Runaway. That's the main character's name.
Okay.
A human slave played by Daniel Bernhardt. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
Classic, very famous actor. That actor I've never heard of.
He's a Swiss actor, model, and martial artist. He's being pursued by cyborg slavers and dinosaurs that they use as trackers since he was kidnapped sometime from Earth's past. The Runaway is familiar with the English language. Why is this in here? I don't need this detail in the plot on Wikipedia.
Do the nuns like...
He somehow runs into a nun whose past involves dealing drugs and prostitution. Wow, okay. Together they him and the nun fight the dinosaurs and robot masters and help a street gang. What the hell?
This is such a weird movie.
Apparently the fighting involves a lot of Daniel Bernhardt's kickboxing skills because he's a kickboxer.
Okay.
They're arrested because they're suspected of killing people in strange animal attacks. Okay. And they're interrogated by federal agents. They're presented to they give them a dinosaur collar they found on a beach. I don't know what's happening here. The cyborg master breaks into the police station during the interrogation, and the Runaway escapes in the confusion. Him and the nun get back together with their new gang friends, and they attack where the dinosaurs... Now it's Jurassic Park. They're attacking where the dinosaurs live, which they only know about from the directions that it's near water. Okay. They use dynamite to destroy the water treatment plant, killing the dinosaurs. Somehow Cyborg Master survives. I think he's the villain from earlier.
Okay.
And he watches Sister Anne take her final vows to become a nun. What? Where's
the
this
more
going?
you read the plot, the more I'm like, yeah, this deserves a 1.6 on IMDb.
Okay, and then it finally ends is that after he kills Cyborg Master, he becomes a counselor for runaway teens working with Sister Anne. What the hell is this movie?
It sounds kind of like the greatest film ever made.
There's a lot going on.
That is a lot of a movie. Wow. Okay, well, thank you all for listening to the recap of the plot of Future War.
The Future War.
And thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog. And just scream into the void one day. while you're on the bus. Just scream as loud and as hard as you can. It could be about the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. It could be about just life. It's fine. Also, check out our merch at redbubble.com/VeryReasonablePilotsPodcast.com.
We don't have any merch.
Thank you.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. That's not a real website. Have a good safe time home.
Send me $200 in the mail, and I'll send you a shirt.
If you send me $200, I will sew you a Very Reasonable Pilots podcast shirt.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that. Even if you actually did, he wouldn't do that because he can't sew, and then he'd have to learn how to sew.
Somebody a show.
Buy the materials. It would cost him like $1,000 to learn how to sew.
Sewing's
and
not
get
that
the materials
hard.
to sew, and then mail it to you.
Oh yeah, it would be
UK.
really expensive to mail it. One time I got something mailed to me, and it was $60 for shipping. It was ridiculous. And then I had to pay another $30 to actually get the thing. It was crazy. But yeah. I love you all.
I know.
Goodbye.